The UU Fellowship of Lake Norman, also known as the Unitarians of Lake Norman, is an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Jane Pope, and I have been a member of this congregation since August. We begin by lighting our chalice. So please say with me the words found in your order of service. We light this chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker for today, Loretta Fodrie. Okay, who came to this congregation in the fall of 22. She retired after 30 years teaching in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg elementary schools, and among her achievements there were becoming national board certified, which isn't easy, and she chaired what used to be the state's Professional Teaching Standards Commission. She's twice widowed and takes particular pleasure in her 3 daughters and 5 adult grandchildren. Today, she will speak on the topic, Finding My Way to You. It's her story of a long journey of faith and wondering, with maybe some wandering in there too. And now she will offer our opening words.
I love Joseph Campbell from the 1980s, so you can kind of tell how old I am. It's scaring giving this away. But some of his words, if you can see your path laid out in front of your step, you know it's not your path. Your own path you make with every step you take. That's why it's called your path.
Now please prepare to enter into contemplation as Mike brings us music for centering.
The pathway I have taken to find you at UU has been long and circuitous, too long to give you all the stops along the way. I want to share with you the beginning and some of the most significant times that have sent me in different directions. I view my spiritual travels not as a climb to higher and higher truths, but instead as visits to spiritual villages where I can go and hang out for a while and pick up different learnings, put them in my backpack, and continue on my journey. So I want to be clear that in sharing my journey, I'm not saying I've gone from a bad place to a good place. I've gone from many different places. My first memory of church is lying with my head in my mom's lap, looking up at the stars and the moon that were light bulbs in the ceiling of the church. It's First Baptist Church in Monroe. My grandfather was probably snoring in the second pew in front of us. And over on the other side of the church, there was a mysterious pool, and my mom called it the baptistry. So some years later, when I was about 10, I had my own adventure with that pool. I met with some of my friends and our minister and decided that I was ready to be saved. Now, what that meant to me was that I was promising to be good and live a good Christian life, and I was going to go to heaven instead of hell when I died. And I knew that that was what I was doing because I had been to Sunday school and Sunbeam Band, and, every time the doors were open, Sunday morning, Sunday night, we were there. So I put a white robe over my clothes, and I walked down the steps into that pool of water. My minister was standing there waiting for me. He put a folded cloth over my nose and mouth, and he ducked me backwards under the water. And then he brought me up and left all my sins down there in the water. And I climbed back out of the pool, and my mom was standing there with a big towel, wrapped me up, and I waited to feel something. And what I felt was very glad that I'd made my mom happy. That was it. Okay. Soon after that, in 1948, my daddy became very sick. Mom moved a hospital bed and a cot into their room and stayed with him like 24 hours a day. And he got worse. I wanted to save him. He did not go to church with us, but I knew he was a really good man. So I needed to explain to God how important he was. I folded my hands just so. I got down on my knees, and I talked to God for a long time. And I assured him that if he would let Daddy live, I would knew that Daddy would join the church with us and be saved. Either God didn't listen or I didn't pray right, because Daddy died. His funeral filled the church. His white friends were all in the sanctuary, and his black friends were all in the annex, but the whole church was full for this really good man. I gave up on God and Jesus. I gave up on the idea of people loving me, and all that prayer stuff. I started writing my questions in a journal, and sometimes I tried to talk to my mom. Her faith had somehow not been shaken like mine had been. She was amazing. She was loving and caring, and she took care of my brother and me and worked really long hours to be sure we had everything we needed. I couldn't figure it out. I stayed with her wishes and continued to go to the Baptist church nearly every time the doors opened, but I listened with a different mindset. I was always looking for the loopholes. When I went away to East Carolina College, my mom sent me with this big old Abingdon Bible commentary. I don't know if you've ever seen such a thing, but it's was huge, like Webster's Dictionary or something. And she thought that would help me because I was still questioning, and she still kept telling me, you just need to have faith. You just need to have faith. Well, I was still content to call myself a Baptist because one of the things that I understood about Baptist is that there's a conviction that nobody can stand between you and God. We don't need a pope. We don't need a bishop. We're fine. We just talk. I really love the idea of speaking directly to God, if there was such a thing, and that maybe somehow he did listen. He did listen. When I got to East Carolina, I became very active in the Baptist Student Union. And one of the reasons for that is because every Monday night we had a discussion. And for the first time, there were people there who actually questioned like I did. So it was a really good thing to have people to do that. In conversations that I had with a favorite biology professor, I encountered my first real live agnostic. And he didn't even have horns. I mean, he just, at East Carolina, on my first day of class, I met Loretta Fodrie. And he was a backsliding Methodist, a Navy veteran. Two weeks after I graduated from East Carolina, we got married. And so for the next 12 years, I was just a happy wife, mother of 3 daughters, and a garden club member, and very involved in the Methodist church, because Don said he was not going to be immersed in that pool thing, that he had already been sprinkled, and that was enough. When the girls were finally all in school, it was time for me to have a profession, and I became a teacher. From the beginning, my work with my students and fellow educators has been as much a part of my spiritual journey as any of my time spent in churches or meditations or in prayer. As a teacher, I came to know people who were very different from me, and my students were different from me and my family and my friends. Some of those colleagues and some of my students continue to inspire me to this day by the way they live their lives and by the ways they have overcome difficulties way beyond what a 10-year-old should endure. As the girls, as the girls grew older and went off to college, I became more involved in teacher organization, especially teaching learning centers, which were very popular before the internet came along. At a teacher centers meeting in Wisconsin, an organization called Beyond War gave a frightening presentation about the situation between the Soviet Union and the United States. I thought about our children away at school. We had tried to teach them how to lead good lives, but we had not thought to teach them how to live with fear, distrust, and evil. I came home and found a group of people in Charlotte who were already holding Beyond War meetings. This was a group of people deeply concerned about making a difference, taking care of each other and the world. They tried to live by 5 agreements, and they tried to encourage others to choose that path. He called it a new way of thinking beyond war. The 5 agreements: I will resolve conflict. I will not use violence. I will not preoccupy myself with an enemy. I will maintain a spirit of goodwill. I will work together with others to build a world beyond war. Now, about the same time, my healthy husband's heart was attacked by a virus that ultimately required him to have a heart transplant. The memory of praying for my dad did not help. I learned that some of the Beyond War people were also affiliated with a very liberal Christian church called Unity. The participants there sat in semicircles, and during the morning prayer, they held hands and said together, "The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. and the Christ in you beholds the Christ in me. The idea of Christ being within me, being my connection to God, was a new concept for me. Some people in the Beyond War group and some people from the Unity began a sort of book club discussion group, and they explored many ideas in an open and non-threatening way. The support and care from this group helped Don and me through his illness and helped me through the bad time after he died. Sometime in the late 80s or 90s, I learned about the Jesus seminars at Myers Park Baptist Church. I attended several of them. My favorite author was John Shelby Spong. He's the Episcopal Bishop of the state of New Jersey. He died a couple of years ago, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But as I read the first book I read of his, Rescuing the Bible from Fundamentalism, I felt like I had turned a corner, and I wanted to wander farther down that path. I found lots of other authors and enjoyed conversations with several friends, those who had similar ideas and those who thought I was nuts. One of those who thought I was nuts became my second husband. Huskins was living in Mooresville, attending the First Presbyterian Church there. As I contemplated joining the church with him, he suggested that I might have a conversation with the pastor first. I don't know whether he thought I might not be accepted at that church, or that maybe the pastor would convince me to back off some of my crazy ideas. In any case, we had a lively conversation with the minister, and I was warmly welcomed into that congregation. Ed Lewis was one of the best pastors I've ever known. I'm not sure exactly what he thought about my progressive ideas. I just know he was a good listener and always encouraged me to continue to learn. He was still our minister when Les fought hard against cancer, and he did the funeral service for him when the fight was over. The minister who followed Ed was not so welcoming to my request to form a discussion group like the one I had been in Charlotte. In the spirit of being a good pastor for me, he suggested that I might find more alignment with my ideas at one of the churches in Davidson. He was right. I became a Methodist again and found another group of curious and spiritual travelers in their own journeys. A friend I had known years before in the church we attended when my girls were young was now a member of Davidson Methodist. She told me about a series of disciple studies that explored the books of the Bible and was being led by a dedicated, caring man who I would truly appreciate. She was as correct as the Presbyterian minister had been. From that first class, there grew a group of friends who studied together for years. We were a rather unusual group that included folks who had grown up Catholic and were looking for something else, folks who were very conservative and believed that every word in the Bible was true, and a former Baptist minister and his wife. People whose beliefs were grounded in their life in the Methodist Church. And then there was me, way out there on the end. We studied many, many books, but I was never able to convince them to read any of Spong's books, and I regret that to this day. The group only stopped meeting when one of the beloved members died, and the rest of us got kind of old and had health issues and stuff, but we still get together every now and again, and we still love each other. My last partner came into my life through a dating app for senior citizens. Doug Middleton and I were supposed to be lunch buddies and just enjoy a few theaters together, but he had other ideas. And as I came to know him, I kind of liked his ideas. So we were together for about 10 years. He and his wife, Jean, had been married 57 years when she died. They had been members of the Unitarian Church in Charlotte. When they lived in New Jersey. And then when they came to Charlotte, they joined the fellowship down there. But he was pretty non-committal about his beliefs. He was tolerant of my occasional wanderings, but he didn't engage in any of those discussions. He just was happy just being him. And he would not go to any church. and we didn't know about you guys at that time. We had a wonderful time growing old together. He got cancer too, and he died in 2022. I looked around. I have wonderful friends, for long-standing friends, a wonderful family, but I needed a community. I needed a group of people who cared about each other, cared about making a difference, and would be open to wondering and wandering. And I found you guys, I think, in a newspaper ad. And I'm just really glad that I saw it and called and ended up talking with these wonderful people, Marge and Sandy, and I've been here ever since. So thank you for listening. And the thing that I realize as I'm doing this is every single one of you could do the same thing, because we've all done this wandering and wondering. It's a wonderful experience.
Wonderful. Now it's your turn. At this part of the service, you're invited to share your thoughts, comments, or questions about today's message. So please come up to the podium to say your piece so that folks watching at home can see you and hear the discussion.
Hi, I'm Linda. I did this probably 4 years ago, gave my talk about where I came from and why I'm here. And I just want to encourage other people to do the same thing. I think it's wonderful to, if you're brave enough to get up and do what Loretta did, we get to know more about her. We share. So somebody else do this.
I'm Regina, and I just want to say I'm so glad that Loretta found her way to us. This group has meant so much to me, and Loretta means a lot to me.
There's sometimes a lot of talk that our activities should be only for members and that will restrict them to them. And Loretta is the best evidence I know for opening things like the Chalice Circle, Feed NC, and pretty much everything else to anybody who wanders by. We're so glad you did, because you wouldn't have gotten to know us. And, coming here on a Sunday will do it, but that takes much courage. Sitting in Marjorie's living room was pretty easy, and you did a great job.
She does a great job. Yeah. I do have to say that one of the things I really love about this group is the Chalice Circles, which is a small group of people, and you get to know that small group of people over time. That was one of the most special things about just jumping in, and also the suppers that we have afterwards, where we sit across the table and talk to each other. It's just a pretty good group.
Hey. The power of the Chalice Circles is so important. And I know that all of you are not in a Chalice Circle, and I've gotten a little bit of feedback that maybe we haven't done the best job of promoting Chalice Circles. So please talk to me if you'd like to be part of a Chalice Circle. A week ago, last Thursday, my dear friend you've heard me talk about passed away. And her death came about 20 minutes before I was to walk into a Chalice Circle. And so I got to be with these wonderful people who loved me through realizing that my friend had moved on. And even Eddie Gunn was sweet to me. through that experience. He hugged me and he said some things he shouldn't have said, but still, it was wonderful to be loved by that group through that hard experience of losing somebody.
Thank you, Loretta. That was a wonderful, wonderful story of your journey. And now we will have a musical reflection from Mike. And Eddie.
The accused.
I'm never gonna do this one down.
You're an easy target today.
Yeah, whatever. Everyone.
Which one do you want to do first? We'll do Knocking on Heaven's Door.
We're gonna do 2 Bob Dylan songs, one now and one at the end, because I missed last week or something when there was a Bob Dylan day. But this is Knocking on Heaven's Door, and if you know it, start humming with me. Mama, take this badge off of me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. 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 Mama, put my guns in the sand. I can't shoot them anymore. This long dark cloud is coming down. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knocking on heaven's door. Knocking on heaven's door. Knocking on heaven's door. Knocking on heaven's door.
Same key. Yeah. Okay. We're doing 2. We're doing 2. Living down south in the land of the pines, thumbing my way across North Carolina, staring at the road, pretty out I see headlines. Well, I'm heading down the coast in the sun's in out, thinking me old can't go wood flies, hoping for Raleigh, see my baby tonight. Hey, rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, every way you feel. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Yeah, rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Well, I was running from the cold of the New England rice born to be a fiddler in an old town street band. Baby plays guitar, I pick a banjo now. In the North Country winters, they got me down. Lost my money playing poker, so I had to leave town. They ain't turning back, living that old life no more. Yeah, rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Yeah, rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Rock me. Well, I was walking to the south, out of Roanoke. I caught a trucker out of Philly, had a nice dog too. He was heading west, the Cumberland Gap, to Johnson City, Tennessee. I gotta get a move on, pray for the sun. Even my baby call my name, I know she's the only one. If I die in Raleigh, at least I will die free. Yeah, rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, 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 mama, rock me. Rock me, rock me.
Aren't we lucky? Aren't we fortunate?
That's Eddie's fault that we did 2 songs, by the way. He asked for it.
I don't hear any complaints.
I don't want all the blame on me.
This fellowship is important to us all. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and reach out to our community. With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. May they enable us to spread compassion and peace. Now, I'd like to point you to the announcements in your bulletin. We have a group of people who often go to have a little supper together after the service. Where are we going today?
We're gonna go to Zapata's, which is a Mexican restaurant in Cornelius.
To Zapata's, the Mexican restaurant in Cornelius.
Is that next to Fusion Hall? Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And Loretta mentioned the dinners out that she likes to go to and talk to people, and it's a good way to get to know
It's a great,
people, old people.
it's a great way to talk with some people after the service. Also, you're welcome to stick around afterwards, but we do ask that you move your visiting out to the foyer here because so they can start setting up back up for the Quakers, whose space we are fortunate enough to share. There is a group who goes to movies at Birkdale on Tuesdays, followed by a snack at a local eatery to talk about the movie and everything else in the world. Tuesday's movie is The Room Next Door at 1:35, not 1:35 a.m., that would be p.m. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Jane, I
Yeah.
just want to say, yeah, yeah, but also there's a movie called Sing Sing, which is only playing this week at 7:00. And it's one of those, they're bringing back movies that came out this past year because of Oscar nominations and things like that. And so this movie is never played before, but it's a story, it's based on a true story in Sing Sing, the prison, about I believe, a theatrical group that got together to sing and act, and it was not therapeutic, I guess, to the inmates. And so it's at 7:00, but we haven't picked the day yet. Well, we kind of think of Wednesday, but we're not so sure. But if anybody's interested, just let me know and I'll send out a consensus on that.
Sing Sing at 7, an indeterminate day, so make sure you get in touch with Linda. We are, as always, proud of the Heart of Carolina's UU Animal Ministry, where we build and furnish fence enclosures for dogs who would otherwise live outdoors on chains or tethers. Volunteers are always welcome and no experience or special tools are needed. You can contact Claudia about upcoming builds. Our next day to Slice, Grill, Stir, and Serve at Feed and See, which is Mooresville's service to feed and embrace people experiencing food insecurity, is Thursday, February 13th. And you can contact Jim Arnold for that. Next Sunday, Sue Friday's daughter, Amy DeCaren, will be in the house to talk about Hope of Mooresville, which provides housing for homeless women and children. But first, you will have to listen to. Excuse me. You will have the honor and pleasure of listening to our own Pat Job talk about how wonderful she is. So, also on Sunday, January 26th, we are starting a once a month shared plate All gifts collected at the service, unless they are specifically marked as pledge commitments, will go to a specific community organization, and first up will be Hope of Mooresville. Checks can be made out to us with a note on the memo line or directly to Hope of Mooresville. Our closing song today is This Little Light of Mine.
Gee, it's good to see you again.
This little heart, I wanna let it shine. This little light, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. You're the beautiful world. I'm gonna let it shine. You're the beautiful world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine.
And now Loretta has our closing words.
I would like to do just a personal thing to say welcome to a couple of my friends who came just for today. Felicia and Dirk Eibel. She was my principal in Charlotte Mecklenburg and has been a friend for about 1,000 years, as Karen and Richard. Thank you for coming.
She said just for today, but it doesn't have to be just for today.
That's true. Now, I know they both have their own spiritual homes and love them and are supported by them too. So it's really nice for you to be here. I have two sets of closing words. One is continuing the thought of Joseph Campbell. In the 80s, Bill Moyers was interviewing him, and he was talking about, Bill Moyers said, "You're talking about a search for the meaning of life." And Joseph Campbell said, No. I'm talking about for the experience of living, of being alive. And I really like that. And then the last one is my favorite. Not all those who wander are lost. Have a good week.
And that was J.R.R. Tolkien. I'll be glad to recite the whole thing anytime you want. But now, please say with me the words in your order of service to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Go in peace.
I'm so mad. Awesome. That's fantastic. I wanted to see your table.